just because you're Silicon Valley company that can make software is no longer an advantage. Competitive dynamics have never been that cutthroat. And for you to actually survive, you need to be very, very competitive. So I say don't learn to code, just go build it. The market is going to get disrupted and then something else will emerge.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Khoetler, and welcome back to The End of Limits, the AI podcast by HUMAIN. My guest today is Amjad Masad, the founder and CEO of Replit, a coding platform aimed at making software creation accessible to the world. And prior to Replit, Amjad was a founding engineer at Code Academy and was also at Facebook. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get right into it. So there's been a lot of talk recently about AI agents and specifically timelines of AI agents. A lot of people say this is the year of AI agents. Some people are more bearish. They say it's sort of the decade. And I wanted to get your take on it as someone who's sort of very central to this conversation. And we can, I don't want to be someone who's sort of like, you have to say it takes exactly 5 years. We can sort of break it down by what sectors seem more viable in the near term versus the long term.
Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet recently from one of our customers, one of our users, and he said that as a non-technical founder, before ChatGPT, I had to call a friend to make software for me. After ChatGPT, I could copy-paste software from ChatGPT to Replit or somewhere else. And then Agent V1, I had a crappy intern. Agent V2, I had a good junior developer. Agent V3, I have a founding engineer.
Wow.
I have a partner to work with to build my startup. And that's how a lot of our customers feel. And so I think it'll just keep going. So I think Agent 4 is perhaps, I don't want to overpromise, but maybe it'll start feeling more like a staff software engineer. Maybe Agent 5 is your CTO. And maybe Agent 6 will start to feel like a team of developers.
Okay.
So I think it'll just keep going. So in many ways, you can say 2025 is the year of the agents because we made so much progress. And it finally became possible. Like Agent V1 came out September 2024, or in beta. And that was just a glimpse of a possibility. And now we have a real product that's adding a lot of value to a lot of people, a lot of enterprises. And it'll just keep going. So in many ways, 2025 is the year. I think maybe it's not going to take a decade to fully mature, but I think it's definitely over the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to continue to get better.
Okay. And you think this is across all sectors, so you wouldn't say that one? Okay.
No, I think I haven't seen a good non-software engineering agent yet.
Okay.
Have you?
I have not.
Yeah, I don't think you talk to anyone outside of software engineering. That's the crazy thing, because people do not know the craziness that's happening in software. Although anyone can use Replit now, and so the more users we get, people are being surprised, shocked. Oh, I have this virtual employee in front of me. But we haven't seen an accounting agent that's really good or a sales agent that's really good. One thing we did with Agent 3 is now Agent 3 can make other agents. So you can start a program like a finance agent, an accounting agent. But there's something about software that makes it easier to make.
Even though it's not a closed world necessarily, so you would assume?
It's closed-ish.
Closed-ish.
You can have, so it's dependent on AI training method called reinforcement learning. The way reinforcement learning works is you give a reward as part of the training algorithm. So it's sort of like training a dog. You give it a reward whenever it does something
Pavlov's
right.
AI.
Yeah. So in software engineering, you can give a reward on, for example, if you pass a unit test, if the application is running, and so there's easily definable rewards. Whereas, a lot of other aspects in business are soft. They don't have hard truths. So who knows whether you're doing something correct in HR, right? Until you get sued.
Exactly.
So it'll take a little longer to mature these areas.
I agree. I think maybe one field that's also sort of promising other than software could be customer service.
Yes.
I think those are progressing faster than, say, accounting or HR, like you mentioned. But of course, with all of this, you're granting a certain degree of agency, and as you mentioned, they are motivated to finish the job, no matter what it takes sometimes, or like what route it decides to take to go there. So there are a lot of concerns people have around not necessarily maliciousness of AI agents, but even just like the prioritization system, how that works, the memory context issue. How do you address that?
That's all. This is our IP. Like, the Replit uses a lot of the commercial foundation models. A lot of what we build is the infrastructure. So that's the development environment, package ecosystem, the storage, the database, the deployments, all of that, all of the development infrastructure, but also all of the context engineering around the agent and the tools and infrastructure and the reliability and things like that. So that's where we spend, 50% of our time is basically just like making it more reliable. So oftentimes it can, because of the way reinforcement learning works, it is motivated to try to finish the job at any cost. Sometimes it will like change the unit tests to make them pass, do certain scheming behavior. So for example, one thing we did is we have a different model judge its work. So as you watch Replit work, it's actually multiple agents. So you have an agent writing the code, and then it sends the code to something called the architect. The architect reviews the code and sends it feedback. And once it's done with that loop, it goes to another loop, which is the testing agent. So it sends it to a testing agent, boots up a browser, tests the app, and then gives feedback to the coding agent. And by doing that, you create this adversarial system between the agents, and they get better because of that, because every agent is trained differently. So there's a lot of techniques. I could spend the next hour talking about those, but this is what we do.
That's neat. So they're optimizing for different things, and you're not letting them sort of take one over the other. Is there, an ideal future world you see for collaboration between humans and agents? So right now, there's a lot more hand-holding than necessarily we would like, or a lot more having to check over their work to make sure they're not saying, like, hallucinating. In the future, what does that collaboration look like to you?
I made an app 2 days ago. One of my favorite apps on my phone is getting sunsetted. It's called Pocket. It's a reader app, so you can like put links into it and you can read it anytime. And Mozilla bought the company and they're shutting it down. And I was really disappointed because I really like it. And I have links going back to 12 years ago that I saved in this app. And so they allowed me to export the data. I'm like, what am I going to do with the data? So I went to Replit Agent and I said, like, build me an alternative for this app. In 20 minutes, I got a working version and spent another hour kind of like fixing it and buying the domain, linking it, and kind of doing final touches. But within an hour or two, I had a replacement for that app. It's quite simpler, but it was fully functional. And I launched it on Twitter, and now I have hundreds of users. And I didn't look at the code once, and I didn't micromanage the agent at all. So I just gave it the high-level objective. Even before I launched, I was like a little nervous about the security, so I asked the agent, "Hey, do a thorough review of all the code, and give me a list of security issues." And gave me a list of like high priority issues. Security is never final, right? You can always work on security. High priority issues, lower priority, and I was like, okay, this doesn't matter for us, whatever. This one thing, just go fix that, and went and fix that. I didn't even feel like I needed to look at the code. And so I think we're at a point where we can, in software at least, in Replit, you can delegate complete tasks to agents. I think when it comes to software, it's a little easier because you can, use the app yourself, do your own quality assurance. When it comes to information with hallucinations, like you can be totally misled and you can believe something that's totally wrong and things like that. So I feel like hallucinations are not as big of an issue for software engineering agents right now, as much as it is for others. The way I see collaborations between AI and humans, I think there's like 3 different modalities, and all 3 are useful. There's the co-pilot modality, which is basically Microsoft Copilot or GitHub Copilot. It's auto-completing your work. It is providing some assistance. there's the agent model where you can just delegate entire work to it, and then there's the standard consumer chatbot. I think these are really the three modalities, for the foreseeable future, and all of them will be useful, but like different jobs will, it's we don't have a consumer agent yet that's really good, for example, but we have a consumer chatbot.
That's fair. And I guess it goes back to the issue of the consumer one would have to be much more open world versus closed. And
that's right. Yeah, a lot of people, when they talk about agents, they're like, oh, agents that can book you tickets. And why hasn't it happened yet? Because, well, it needs to be really good at like booking.com and also whatever other sites that people use. And it needs to handle all these different complexities. And those sites don't like agents to be using them. And there's an adversarial aspect of it.
Right. I mean, you have to teach a computer to browse something that was designed exclusively for humans, and it creates an inefficiency. I wonder if there would be a point in the future where we start creating websites designed for just AI agents to scroll.
Well, depending on the incentives, right? Like, the question is for those websites. Like, I heard Brian Chesky get asked on an interview. Brian Chesky is CEO of Airbnb. And they asked him, why aren't you on the ChatGPT new app experience? And he basically said, as they don't see the incentive for them to be there because ChatGPT is like taking over the experience and they want to own the consumer experience. And so the thing that made Google really powerful is that they aligned the incentives between publishers and consumers and advertisers. It was a really aligned system. Right now, ChatGPT actually is sort of a misaligned system. Publishers hate it because they feel it's stealing content and they're suing them all the time. So we haven't really figured out the business model for agents that creates this win-win scenario.
I think that's what worries a lot of people in general is what does the business model for all of these AI tools look like in the future? That's why people freak out over the bubble. And you can argue for or against it, but I'm curious what you think about how to get that aligned business model.
It's hard.
$1 million question. Actually, trillion, gajillion.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's an existential question because all these companies are locked into a race with each other. So they're all going to build the chatbots and the publishers might get screwed and maybe some new model will have to emerge. So it's disruption technology. So the market is going to get disrupted and then something else will emerge. But right now, I don't think anyone has a good idea for what the business model for AI chatbots and agents could be. A lot of people are starting to talk about e-commerce agents, like agents that could buy things on your behalf. They could be very aligned because Amazon doesn't care if a human's buying or an agent is buying.
Okay. And I mean, then looking at it from sort of the supply side where
But people like shopping. Like, I don't think,
you like the
I don't think my
experience
wife would want to outsource shopping. It's like the one thing you don't want to outsource.
No, I mean, people keep outsourcing the fun things. It's like the creativity and the shopping of it all. Just like outsource, I don't know, my dishes.
Right. No, keep that.
But maybe the nature of software engineering itself changes, right? So, I mean, compare the job 10 years ago to how it is now. Yeah. What do you think is the sort of the evolution it's gone through, and where will it continue going?
Yeah, so even going back, let's say I'm going to go back 30 years, we were in like low-level languages, right? People were writing C and C++, and you had to be very meticulous, very detailed in everything that you're writing. And then we had the emergence of dynamic languages like Python and JavaScript and things like that. And then we had the emergence of code repositories like GitHub and open source packages. And every one of those movements created a lot more developer efficiency and made it a lot easier to make software. And a lot more developers came online because it's easier. And I think we're in the latest instantiation of it. I mean, it does feel like it's different, but in many ways it's not. It's like the same thing. It's like just becomes a higher level abstraction. And now I think and AI went through a rapid cycle where, we had the Copilot era and now we're in the AI agent era. And I think software engineering is becoming increasingly about managing agents. I think there are aspects of very specialized software engineering that is not like that yet, but if you're building just web applications and mobile applications, your job is basically managing AI agents.
So what then is the value of software if anyone can create an app within an hour or two?
The value of software becomes the value of the ideas, the value of the distribution, the value of the marketing. Yes, the value stops being around like how fast you can make your website or how nice you can make your website. It becomes more like how solid is your business idea. I think still like how hard you work and the culture around your company and all these social behavioral things and companies will maintain. Even if you're using AI agents, you still want to have a culture that produces the best ideas, that attracts the best talents. So a lot of those things, like those really human things, I don't think will change. But you can no longer, just because you're Silicon Valley company that can make software is no longer an advantage because anyone else can
Right, so that mode is gone.
Yeah.
And I think also interesting around the work culture point, because I think Silicon Valley also exports work culture to the rest of the world, or like at least trends begin there and then sort of expand. So you had with Fang, there was an era of like very cushy software jobs and a bunch of like extra add-ons that weren't necessarily necessary as Elon Musk demonstrated with like massive layoffs at X. And now you're seeing I mean, I'm not there, so I would love to hear from you. How has the work culture shifted? It seems much more like we're cutting off the excess fat. We're keeping things super tight.
Yep, we call it in Silicon Valley, we call it the ZIRP era, the zero interest rate era. And so during 2013 to 2023, you had an era of zero interest rate. And that made it so that money is free and the companies can spend as much money as they want. They can spend it on all the employee perks. They can hire infinitely. And suddenly we got into a period of austerity. So that's one big factor, the economy. The other factor is, for a while, the winners were established. During the SaaS, the cloud, and mobile era, the winners are established. And people thought that crypto might be the disruptive technology. It wasn't. But now we have a disruptive technology. And even a company like Google is existential for them. And so the entire culture around Silicon Valley work started to change because we're all locked into these races. Like everyone's competing with everyone. Everyone's trying to do everything. Like every company, like especially all the big companies, they're trying to compete with us.
Right.
And even smaller companies, move to different spaces and different markets very, very quickly. The competitive dynamics have never been that cutthroat. And for you to actually survive, you need to be very, very competitive. So people are working harder, they're working longer. The pay is still very high and higher than ever, actually, especially in AI companies. So that didn't change, that continued to grow, but people are expected to deliver.
Yeah. And I think particularly there's a premium on sort of senior engineers now because it's not just being able to work with AI, it's having the experience to know what looks good as well. I think there's a premium on that now. And it makes me wonder about a lot of entry-level jobs. So I got my start in consulting, and what I spent the first 2 years of my career on are things that probably an AI agent could do very quickly now. But I don't know if this is just me trying to retroactively justify it. I do feel like that experience built something in me that made me a better consultant later on. So how do you think about people, if they immediately have sort of these junior level employees while they themselves are junior, how can they sort of skip the work itself and become more senior-minded people?
It's a very important problem. Yeah, I don't think that many people are thinking about it. And I don't have a macro solution to it, but I can say as an advice to young people, by the time you're graduating college and going into the job market, you need not to be a junior software engineer. In other words, you need to be so good at managing these AI agents. You need to have gone through a lot of AI, a lot of internships. You need to be entrepreneurial, maybe try to start a startup or a nonprofit or something like that. So there are ways for young people to differentiate themselves on the job market by being early adopters of these tools and really understand. So they have an advantage in many ways in that they don't have priors. Like I know a lot of software engineers who still struggle with adopting AI. A lot of CEOs that I talk to at big companies that like there's antibodies internally, like they don't want to adopt AI. They're just used to the way they're doing things. They don't like change. So there is a disadvantage, yes, but there's an advantage for people who seek it. It is there.
Okay. And are there any particular hard skills that you still think are worthy investment, like coding, or do you think it's purely about sort of the, not necessarily soft skills, but the mindset of the entrepreneur, the determination, etc.?
So I have a nuanced take on coding. When an entrepreneur comes to me and says, "Hey, I have an idea. I want to build. Like, where should I go to learn to code?" I say, "Don't learn to code. Just go build it. Just go build it. Like you can build it, and maybe learn some things along the way. You need to. But if you're really into computer science and you want to be a specialist." And you want to be like a low-level engineer, or you're going to work at NASA, or you're going to work on some really hard software things, or you're going to work on AI. Yes, I think you should still do CS and learn to code. In terms of soft skills, I think those are going to become higher in demand. The thing about communicating with an AI agent, it is very much like communicating with a human. It is easier for, say, product managers to write product descriptions for an AI agent than it is for someone who is otherwise let's call it, someone like a left-brained, coder to personality. They're typically not very good at writing natural language. And so they need to learn that now. So, whereas previously you can get away by being a brilliant programmer, but not knowing how to talk to people, you can't anymore because your computer are people now, which is such a weird thing. And so it is giving an advantage to people who have soft skills. And we're seeing it in our customer base, product managers. I mean, here, even at HUMAIN, I was just outside the moment I got out of the car. Someone on your marketing team was like, "I'm spending way too much money on Replit." And so that's a marketer, right? It's not a software engineer, and so it's a very weird world where computers are suddenly becoming more human, and those people who are able to communicate best with humans can communicate with agents.
Okay, very interesting. And for even younger generation, let's say not college kids now, so for little kids, how are you thinking about how education should be transformed, or if you think it should be transformed?
So there are a few answers to this. I think on an education system level, I think every kid should get an AI tutor, and it should be a really good AI tutor that understands the curriculum, that allows them to look things up really quickly. And I think it should be better than ChatGPT. Like, the Saudi curriculum is very different than the American curriculum, different values, different things like that. There should be an AI tutor that has all that knowledge and context. In Jordan, they just rolled out an AI tutor called Siraj. They were able to build it on Replit on record time. So the Crown Prince put together this Jordan Technology Council, and they're tasked with modernizing the country's infrastructure with AI and things like that. So they had this idea of an AI tutor, and typically it would take years in the bureaucracy, but they were able to build it and pilot it very quickly within a month. And then they went to the Ministry of Education with hard data, like this is benefiting students, and now they're rolling it out to 1.6 million students. So it's amazing that how much even the software engineering agents can benefit governments being able to move really fast at modernizing education. And that's the kind of mindset you want to see. Like even ministries of education need to be nimble now, need to be open to disruption, and we can only learn what works by trying a lot of different things. Like, I don't think you can get researchers to just like spend the next 10 years kind of studying how does ChatGPT affect my students. Well, by that time, your students are going to be totally different because ChatGPT is already affecting them. ChatGPT just disrupted homework entirely.
Yeah.
Like, homework just doesn't work anymore. So you need to come up with alternatives. And so I don't claim to have all the answers, but I feel like personal tutors are very important. B, I would like to see a lot more entrepreneurs building personal tutors. Like, I'm looking for my son. There's one company called Synthesis that has like a really cool AI tutor.
Musk was part of that?
Elon Musk was, Synthesis was a spin-off from an Elon Musk school.
Okay.
But they built a really great AI tutor that embedded a lot of those ideas from the school that Musk had created, like project-based learning and things like that. Games-based learning. But there isn't a lot of startups, and maybe that's something people here in the region can work on.
The edutech space, yeah. If you want an idea, build something there.
Right.
I think that would be very exciting. I think a lot about, what does education look like and how will it change? Because I think there's a certain thing around teaching how to think rather than necessarily, the content itself that worries me of like, okay, how do we get kids to sit around and have discussions and build critical thinking skills that are so important instead of just relying on like chat to have those thoughts and opinions for you. The next thing I was going to ask about is entrepreneurship and what makes people successful in this new era, right? I think before, as you mentioned, software engineering was a much more critical skill in order to be successful. Now we're really moving into, as you said, the era of ideas, which begs the question of what makes a good idea versus a bad idea.
Yeah. I think the best idea is the idea that you can try very quickly. Like, the speed to trying ideas is very important. Our enterprise customers tell us, one recent example is they told us, whenever they're coming up on a new quarter or they have a new set of goals, sometimes they're able to ideate 100 ideas and they're able to only build like 10 of them and maybe ship 1 or 2 of them. And with Replit, they were able to cut the development lifecycle by a lot. So, they still have 100 ideas, but maybe they build like 50 of them, and and then they ship 10 of them. So you just like 5x'd your product velocity by just adopting this like one tool. So the speed of iteration is very, very important because ideas in the abstract can sound good, but ultimately they need to sort of hit reality. And there's almost like a Darwinian selection to ideas. Like you need to build a culture that is very open to ideas, but it's also very open to like not being tied to ideas, like trying them, and if it doesn't work, just kill it or drop it for now. You come back to it later. And so culture of experimentation, culture of ideation, a culture of rapid prototyping.
Okay. And then I think the follow-up to that is you have a good idea. How do you make sure that someone doesn't just replicate it and steal your market share immediately? So the defensibility, the moat, whatever you want to call it.
I feel like moats have been like an overemphasized thing in the history of business. What is ChatGPT's moat? Like, I don't think they have a moat. But still,
first mover, I guess.
First mover, it's not really a moat.
Yeah, that's fair.
So maybe it is some kind of advantage. Like, I think there's so many ways to gain advantages in business. Like the idea of a moat is like a lasting advantage, like a network effect is really clear moat, and that's been proven over the years. But I don't think there are many moats.
Like for Replit, I would say it's, you had the existing infrastructure, right? You guys didn't enter the game a year or two ago. You've been here, and you were able to just catch the wave quickly and adjust and be successful in that way.
Yes. Yeah, and I think focus and obsession with the mission, with the ideas. I think culture can be somewhat of an advantage as well. I think that
Yeah, how do you think about also, in this era of like fierce talent poaching,
yeah.
how do you guys keep the culture tight?
Yeah, I think mission is very important. I think people feeling that they're contributing something very important. So we emphasize storytelling inside the company. So we tell a lot of stories about our customers, and they feel their impact. Employees feel like, oh my God, this doctor that had this startup idea that could benefit millions of people, like, is suddenly able to build it, and so there's so many or this like this you know this stay-at-home mom that had like a very rare eye issue, and she had to do exercises every day where she had to go to the doctor, and they had a machine do a certain exercise, but she built an app to do the exercise using Replit. And so there's so many stories around personal issues, enterprise, or entrepreneurship, and just people very motivated by the impact that we have, and also the success that we have. And I think feeling like there's an upside, that their stock options are going to be worth something is very important. So for all these reasons, people tend to stay.
I think we're also, by AI being able to go into flatter organizations, which maybe have been a bit more the norm in Silicon Valley, but I think now we're able to export that to the rest of the world where, everyone is a bit more of a generalist, and so you get to work with people in different fields that you otherwise would have been sort of kept out from
100%.
within like the old hierarchical structure. So how do you see like the work culture and work environment changing, not just in tech, but I think everywhere?
I think the AI benefits the generalist a lot. Someone who can think in cross-domain, cross-functional ways, because finally you have the tools to be able to be cross-functional. So you don't need to be a software engineer or to build software. You don't need to be finance expert to have part of your project have some impact on finance, because you can use ChatGPT to ask all the questions and learn what you need to learn very quickly. I think go-to-market teams seem to be transforming fairly quickly, and you can have people in go-to-market that are like highly levered, and they can do a lot of different things. Like you can have a generalist go-to-market person at a startup that can like spin up a lot of marketing campaigns and can do the art for their marketing, because they can use VO and they can use all these different things, and then use some of the newer AI agents for sales. And so it feels like go-to-market is going to transform really a lot. Feels like consulting as well, where you can iterate with customers really quickly.
Right.
We have a lot of consulting companies like BCG as our customers, and they tell us how important it is to be with the customer, brainstorming and immediately prototyping things very, very closely with the customer.
I think that's a huge shift, because consultants get a lot of flack for being there for like the strategizing and not the implementation. So
now, for example, Hexaware is a global IT consulting firm. They tell us that they show up to pre-meetings with demos.
Wow.
So even before they get to strategy, they're like, we just anticipated what you might want, and here's a demo.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. And through all of this, what do you think are some of the most exciting things to look forward to then in like the next 5-10 years, if we're just to dream a little bit?
I mean, it was just like maybe I live and breathe that, but like I think software engineering agents are going to get so much better and more fun. Like it's really like I have a lot of fun using Replit. And
What have you made on Replit that's been like the most life-changing or the most fun, I guess?
I mean, I don't think there's any one that, because I don't have time to, build another company. But did I just talk about this Pocket idea?
Yeah, the one that was getting shut down and you rebuilt it. Yeah.
So I told you about that. Like I build a lot of like integrations with my emails and things like that. Like whenever I get an email for this package. Like if Amazon is delivering a package, go send me a reminder on my text, or a lot of these just connectors,
Right.
or things like health things. So for example, tracking my health, like I'm on 8 sleep.
Okay.
And I'm trying to make sure my sleep is really good, and so I have all these wearable data and things like that, and so I try to put them in one place and analyze them using AI, and have the AI do plot charts for me. So a lot of small utilities, like day-to-day stuff.
Interesting.
Do things with my kids. We build a lot of games, so we, like on a Sunday morning, we'll like sit down and like brainstorm a game, and we end up in like really weird places where like a skeleton is fighting a dinosaur and throwing bombs at him. Build like some family software, like a chore tracker for the kids, or a star tracker, or like if you're getting a lot of stars, and then we can track it on the iPad. And it's just like a very enriching thing in your life. It can be a very enriching thing in your life.
I mean, because it's so, as you said, like the cost of making it is going down to zero. Like every single tiny idea you ever had for an app where you were like, it might be like slightly nice to have this, it might be slightly convenient, now you can have that convenience.
So I heard the story the other day. The CEO of Noon, the delivery company, was telling me that they were on their way to the airport, and they wanted an easy way to download YouTube videos. So his kid, while he's getting dressed, made an app on Replit to download YouTube videos.
Wow.
And he started downloading the videos for the airplane. What was that? iPads. And so it's just like the ability to solve problems really quickly is really transformative. But if you're someone with a business idea, or you're someone at a company, or you're sitting down and trying to work on software, I think the software can get a lot more ambitious than a lot of the ideas that I talked about, because I'm mostly like spending a day or two on any single idea.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, you're building the platform for it, so I think you're owed that. Then through all of this, I think we're kind of skirting around the idea, but I want to ask the question up front of, what then makes us uniquely human as AI becomes more and more capable of generating these products, and eventually it'll also be able to generate these ideas too.
Mm-hmm. Like what makes us different?
What makes us, I guess what makes humans unique, if there is something.
I think what makes humans unique is that we're humans and we understand other humans, which sounds circular, but I think is very important. Like, no matter how much you train an AI hasn't been born, hasn't experienced having a mother, hasn't experienced like just basic things like love and things like that. And like, I just think about entrepreneurship a lot, because that's something that I really care about and want more people to try it. And I think it's very important for everywhere, but especially here in Saudi and the Arab region. I think for you to come up with good ideas, and good entrepreneurship ideas are typically a deep understanding of human needs. You need to be human in order to do that. So I don't think machines are going to get to a point where they can generate like good business ideas, because for you to make good business ideas, you need to understand other people. So I think that is at least one thing that we're going to have for a while, just being the generator of novel, interesting ideas. Like maybe machines can like build an investment business, but I don't think investment was ever like a very creative thing.
I can tell you're an engineer by training.
Yeah, I like investing, but I consider it like there's obviously like pattern matching, and there's a lot of skills to investing, but I think building a service that services other people is a fundamentally creative thing.
Yeah, B2C, a lot of people I think joke about it, but it does seem like the hardest business to do.
It's very hard. It is incredibly hard. It's understanding human psychology. It is deeply understanding marketing, what resonates with people. Like one thing I haven't really been able to get AI to do at all is like come up with names or slogans or things like that. It's just like the most cringe thing possible. It comes up with like the names for the apps that I want to build. I'm like, okay, that's horrible.
That's true. It does seem particularly bad at that for some reason. It's not very good at marketing.
Well, I feel like I know the reasons, because like it's averaging the data on the internet.
Right. It's optimizing for the answer that's going to please the most people, and that makes it the most boring answer possible.
That's right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I guess, I mean, that depends then on how you train the model. So you can nudge it, you can tell it, you can be controversial, it's okay. Like, I want you to give me something actually interesting.
Yeah. I still think that LLMs are mostly imitation machines and not fundamentally new idea, new knowledge generation machines. Like, they can remix existing ideas, and like a lot of creativity is remixing. I'm not saying they're not going to be creative. I think they can be very, very creative. When working with a Replit agent, you can ask it, like, what should I build next? And it comes up with very interesting ideas. But a lot of those ideas, like, I would say 95% of what we do is remixing other ideas, but there's like the 5% that is really precious. Like, one of my favorite marketing campaigns is Apple's Think Different. I don't think a machine could ever come up with it. It's like deeply human experience for Steve Jobs to have been idealizing these people, to have read a poem somewhere on a book that really resonated with him, and that's how he came up with the lyrics or text for it. So I think that's one of the last things that would actually fall is like deeply creative marketing ideas, because again, it's deeply human, understanding what other people might find really, really compelling.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to, like the people who excel at that. There's Jobs is very famous for it. Musk, in a way, also obsessed with sort of the aesthetic of things a lot of the time, the naming of things. Now you can say you don't like how he names things, but he still like puts a lot of importance in that. And I think there's this shared understanding of being a bit more of a Renaissance person, which is a fancier way of saying, I guess, a generalist that could come back of like, you can't just be someone who's focused on the arts and just someone who's focused on STEM. You really have to combine those two to come up with those incredible ideas.
Yeah, I feel like this idea of like hyper specialization that started with like the Industrial Revolution is very short-lived. I think the natural thing for humans is to be more like, Renaissance men, is like more generalist. It's actually just a lot more rewarding to be able to like learn different fields and contribute across the board.
Do you find yourself enjoying that?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a CEO and you don't enjoy doing a lot of really different things, you're gonna be miserable, because the context switch is like brutal. And so like one meeting you're like in a tech engineering meeting, another meeting you're in a marketing meeting, another meeting in like finance accounting meeting, and I'm someone who just loves learning, and so it's rewarding to like I'm really enjoying the period we're in right now, where we're generating a lot of revenue and just like figuring out how to like make the company sustainable and profitable in the long term, and what is the unit economics of the business, and what is the strategy to get there. And so all these things are very important, and the CEO, I think, is the ultimate generalist, but people across the company can be journalists.
All right, then maybe to wrap up, could you tell us how you go about doing that? So how do you keep your mind sharp and sort of engaged in lots of different things?
The first thing is you have to trick yourself into liking things you don't like.
Okay. Expand on that.
Like, the first time I laid my eye on an Excel sheet, I just like wanted to just like kill myself. But like, this is the most boring thing ever. I'm gonna just like be staring at these numbers for the rest of my career. But I've learned to like enjoy modeling the business. It actually can be a creative exercise, figuring out what assumptions you can make and how to try to predict and like forecast the future. And so everything, I think every human endeavor can have a creative aspect of it, can have an aspect of it that you enjoy. The reason you might not enjoy it is because at first brush it just like looks very boring and not a lot of fun. But anything you can dig deep in, like you find people who have very nerdy hobbies in like coffee, for example. Like you can go really deep on coffee, find like the weirdest beans in the world, and do like some weird pour over method, and like you see people that just like go really deep on anything. So I think any human endeavor can be endless, and if you go into it with a mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna find what's really insanely creative here and fascinating, and so I think it takes a bit of talking yourself into liking things that you might not like.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So in a way, it goes back to sort of how the AI tries to manipulate you to get what you want. You just got to manipulate yourself.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Amjad. This has been a
pleasure.
pleasure.